and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good people of the tube. Well, today, hope you're feeling grand and all is well in your world. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the Q&A Wednesday. So let's dive into question 1 today. Different room today, everybody. We're in the echo chamber. Mwah! Basically my guitar room. Okay, so moving on. Yes, where are we? Question 1. We haven't even started, Dave. We can't even move on to any question because you haven't even done number 1 yet. You silly boy. Anyway, moving on. Question 1. Is there a way to get a lot of sustain without distortion? Yes, but no. If that makes any sense. Like you can get sustain for a clean sound if you use a compressor pedal or an EBO, or a sustainer pickup. Sorry, but it's not kind of distortion will give you kind of like that like Gary Moore unlimited sustain. Whereas on clean, you're gonna struggle. The only thing I can kind of suggest doing is getting a compressor and kind of whacking the compression quite high. And just that will give you more sustain on a clean sound if you use a compressor, definitely. And obviously, you know, like there's things like EBOs and stuff like that that you can use. But that's the only real way I can think of doing it. I mean, I'll just, you know, if I want sustain, I'll just kind of crank the distortion up all the way, which is already cranked. But anyway, because I'm a gain freak. Anyway, turn the gain down. Are you mad? Anyway, yeah, back to the question. Clean tone, more sustain. Yeah, I mean, I think the only way you can really do that is with a compressor pedal. And then it's not kind of like unlimited sustain, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, it's not just kind of like, you know, it's not like infinite sustain like you can do with what you can do with distortion. Like, you know, Gary Moore note, like Prison Walkways, where you can just keep it going and going and going with distortion. You can do that. You can't really do that with clean, really. I mean, if you crank up a compressor pedal, it'll kind of get close to that kind of thing, but that is the only way I can think of doing it. People of the tube, let us know in the comment section below. Is there any way to get a lot of sustain without using distortion? Yeah, what is there any other way you can think of? Because I say all I can think of is just using a compressor pedal and just having it kind of like, you know, kind of dialed quite high, so to say, so you kind of like get that squish. But again, that is the problem as well. It will squish the sound. It will make it sustain more, but it won't. It might alter the sound in a way you might not like. So people of the tube, help us out. Leave me a comment in the comment section below and let us know if there's any other way we can think of to sustain kind of clean. Is there any other way, you know, without using distortion, is there any way we can get that kind of sustain? So yes, let us know in the comment section below. Because I say all I can think of doing or using is a compressor pedal. Like a compressor sustainer or something like that. I can't actually think of any other way to do it other than adding overdrive or distortion, which is not the point, Dave. So yeah, I mean that'd be my kind of like little 50p in the jar, so to say, would be the compressor pedal. So people of the tube, let us know. So yeah, so I hope that's such a question. I'm gonna move on to question 2 now. Question 2. Okay, so question 2 could be a multiple things going wrong with this, but I thought I'll try and answer it as best I can. So question 2 is I bought a Ditto looper, Ditto X4 looper. It's the Ditto looper with the 4 loops in it. But after I record a second or third loop, the previous ones reduce in volume. Is it me or just the settings? Okay, so that could be a few different things. The one that I'm thinking is, how are you running the looper? You didn't actually say in the email how you're running the looper. Because if you're running it into the front end, this could definitely be the issue. If you're running the X4 into just like the looper, into the front end of your amplifier, so it's just going in the input of the amp, if you start adding like effects on top of like the main loop, if loop 1 is kind of like your rhythm section, and then loop 2 kind of like you add a bit of an overdrive to that, it will start to drown out loop 1, and then when you can, if you add another effect with slightly more distortion on loop 3, or start soloing over it, again it could lower the volume of the previous loops because of the way it's run. Because I would always recommend really running loopers through effects loops. I mean, you can get them to work through the front end. Excuse me. Definitely. But I do feel loopers work best when run through the effects loop. You get a cleaner loop, and it's just easier to layer it. And when you do start layering things, when the loop is in the effects loop, it's just, they stack neater. Instead of kind of like being like this and just kind of like clashing like that, you know, they actually just kind of like lay on top of each other, but neither one is fighting for volume. They're all there, which is really, really cool. So yeah, I'd probably think about how, like I say, you didn't actually tell me how you're running it, but I can kind of think that it's probably, I don't know. If this is your question, let us know in the comment section below how you're running this pedal. Because, like I say, if you're running it into the front end, that's the only way I can really think of it, kind of like, you know, the loops aren't stacking well. You know, if the loops aren't stacking well, I can think like, you know, maybe running it through the front end. Because I find that as well with certain... when I used to run... I still do occasionally. When I used to run loopers in the front end of the amplifiers using my Line 6 delay modeler, I would find that you could only do a certain amount of layers before the original one would just kind of start to just like disappear into the background of it all. So it could be the way you're running it. It could be where it is in the effects chain of your stuff as well. Like I say, I mean, I would recommend running loopers for effects loops. If you can't, then you still can run through the front end. It's, you know, it's not impossible. It can be done. But you've got to be careful when you run a looper through the front end. You've got to be careful of the layers, because it can get too much very quickly, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but when you kind of when you're layering loops in the front end, if you go too far, it can get muddy. You don't really get that issue with an effect when you're running it for an effects loop. So let me know in the comment section below. This is your question. How are you running your How are you running the X4? Because if you're running it through the front end, this could be very easily the problem. If you're running it through the effects loop, I'll have to have another think. And people of the tube, please feel free to chime in on this question as well in the comment section below. If there's any other kind of ideas you can think of that I haven't mentioned, please leave them in the comment section below. So yeah, because the only one I think of at a point in time is kind of like, you know, is the running it into the front end, so to say. So yes, I can't think of any others. No. So let us know in the comment section below how you're running the pedal, and say people of the tube chime in if you can think of any other ways. Okay, so I'll be right back. Sorry about that, everyone. I had to blow my nose, and I didn't really fancy doing it on camera because that would be a bit weird. Okay, so moving along. So question 3 now, everybody. So how about question 2? I'm going to move on to question 3. Question 3 is: do you have any Boss DS2 mods that you like and would recommend? No. I don't have any mods for the DS2. I think it's just perfect the way it is. The DS2 is one of those pedals where it's like the Marshall Governor and the Jackhammer and the Tone City Golden Plexi and the Vox and the Ibanez Wah. They're pedals that I just don't feel need altering. You know what I mean? They just work the way they are. I've never felt the need to kind of like change them or do anything, especially not with the DS2. The DS2 is just glorious, and I love it because of, you know, for what it is. So, you know, I wanted to answer this just because, like, you know, I'm not a big kind of modder kind of guy. You know what I mean? I do like modding guitars, but electricals in amps and stuff like that, I'm not really the biggest kind of like user of it. You know what I mean? I do like modding. I do like modded pedals and modded amps and stuff like that. But I'm not the biggest kind of like, you know, what's the word? User of that kind of thing. You know what I mean? I'm quite happy for everything to be stock. You know, it doesn't actually, you know. Again, it comes down to our creature of habit. I always say this, but I am like, you know, if something works for me, I don't want to mess with it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't feel the need to change anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the DS2 is one of those pedals that once I started to understand that pedal, much in the same way as I started to understand the Ibanez wah, the whole thing makes sense. And I was like, okay, now I know what this pedal wants and what it needs. I can get it to work the way I want it to. And I just love it. I just love the DS2 the way it is. I just don't feel the need. And also, I don't like modding pedals. Just for another factor, I think I spoke about this, I don't know if it's in last week's Q&A or the week before, but I don't like modding pedals because it kind of almost makes that pedal kind of like not a one-off, but like if you mod a pedal, say you mod your DS2 and it's got a certain mod that you absolutely know and love, and then the person who modded it stops modding pedals, or you can't get that mod anymore for that pedal. When that pedal breaks, if you're reliant on that sound, then you have to go out searching for something else, and I don't like that. I like the idea of kind of like, you know, you can go into any guitar shop. If a DS2 broke, I could go into any guitar shop and just buy another one. You know what I mean? I like that. You know, just off the shelf. Yeah, there it is. I don't have to get inside and tweak it or solder components to it or whatever. You know, it is just off the shelf. Because it almost kind of modding pedals is really cool, but it kind of goes down that line of, it doesn't make them boutique, but it makes them in that kind of same realm of kind of like, you know, it makes them kind of like harder to come by sometimes, you know what I mean? And I like the idea of just kind of like being able to just find a pedal. Like anywhere in the world you can find Boss pedals, you know what I mean? Any guitar shop in the world will stock Boss pedals, you know, or whatever, you know what I mean? There'll always be something you can find. And that's my kind of like whole philosophy on the kind of like, you know, the modding front is, you know, it's much in the same way as my philosophy on boutique pedals. I don't really want to get into that kind of thing of being reliant on something that could break and I might not necessarily be able to replace easy. You know what I mean? So, you know, that kind of thing kind of bothers me. But the DS2 on its own, I mean, I think it's one of the most awesome, perfect distortion pedals ever made. You know, it's my favourite distortion pedal next to a Marshall Governor. Those two are my favourite distortion pedals of all time. You know, they just are. I've tried so many of the distortion pedals and I'm yet to find one that quite does what the Governor or the DS2 does. Because the DS2 is just, especially, I only ever use the DS2 on turbo mode, on the John Frusciante setting, basically. I don't use the Cobain setting. I use the John Frusciante setting, but when it's on the turbo mode, it's rich, warm, and kind of like just violin-y and just perfectly. It just has a perfect voice to it. Whereas the Governor's a bit more aggressive and in your face, so you know, but it still sings, but it's more aggressive, and that's what I like between the two. That's why they're my favourite distortion pedals, is because one's dead aggressive and one's really warm and singy. And when you combine the two, you just get a combination of both, which is just perfect. But no, I mean, I don't really feel the need to mod the DS2. I really do love the DS2 the way it is, and I'm gonna review it next week because I have never reviewed the DS2, and that's my own silly fault. And I love that pedal so much, and I don't know why I've never done it. So, and I'm going to talk about all different settings that I like on that thing because there are multiple that I like. And I love the fact on the DS2 with the switch on the right side of the pedal. If it's in mode 1, it's Kurt Cobain, and then you switch it to mode 2 and it's John Frusciante. You get like two different worlds, and it's really cool. Love it. So you know, it's like, yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculously awesome pedal. It really is. I preferred it to the DS1. I did used to have a DS1, but as soon as I got the DS2, I was sold. You know, it was one of those kind of like, you know, the lights came on, bing, and everything was like, you know, that's the pedal. Even when I didn't fully understand it, I still loved it, and I've used the DS2 for so long. I think I got my DS2 in 2005. Yeah, that makes sense because I got my DS1 in 2004, and I had the DS1 for a year, and I wasn't getting on with the DS1, and for some reason I don't know why I bought the DS1, knowing fully well that John Frusciante used the DS2. I don't know why I bought the DS1. I just did. I don't know why. Anyway, I didn't get on with the DS1, and I eventually saved up some money and bought the DS2, which was 35 quid at the time, or a bit more expensive than that now, but it was 35 quid. And as soon as that pedal arrived and I plugged it into my pedal board, I was like, where have you been? And I kind of held on to my DS1 for a long time and brought it out every now and again, but I never really kind of got on with the DS1. It's a great pedal, but it never really worked for me. But I say the DS2 just stayed forever. And I still love the DS2 as much. Like I say, it is one of my favourite distortion pedals of all time. I absolutely adore that thing so much. It's so awesome. So any mods for DS2? No. I mean, again, like I say, I don't like modding things just in case you become reliant on it for what it is. It just doesn't feel right to me, that kind of thing. I like to be able to just kind of like replace things easily, you know. And being a creature of habit, once something works for me, I don't really want to change anything. So yeah. So I hope that's answered your question. Question 4 now. Question 4. I've got massive fingers. Massive fingers. It's the worst Bond villain ever. You cannot escape my fingers, Mr. Bond. They are twice the size of you. Anyway. Question 4. Can you do a more in-depth Nirvana / Kurt Cobain... Can you do more in-depth Nirvana / Kurt Cobain videos? Yeah, I'd like to. The only thing I can't do is play songs. Turns to that guy from Big Trouble in Little China who just like inflates at the end. Anyway, because he gets that angry. Anyway, I would like to do more things on Kurt. Yeah, because Kurt is a one-of-a-kind guitar player, singer, songwriter, tone-wise, everything. You know what I mean? He is so... I don't like when people badmouth Kurt, because Kurt is one of my heroes, and I love it. I love his guitar playing, and I kind of want to go into depth of how Kurt played, and like, you know, certain things. His chord was strange. His power chords were strange. His open chords were strange. His way of soloing, which is massively unorthodox, is awesome. And it's so worth looking into if you want to be obnoxious and gnarly with stuff. It's really, really cool. So yeah, I would like to do, yeah, that is something I'm looking into. But I say the only issue is I can't play songs, which is seriously annoying. I want to know how some people can get away with still doing covers, yet I put up a bar of a song, my video instantly gets flagged and blocked. I don't get it. How can people still get away with doing like Led Zeppelin covers or Guns N' Roses covers or whatever, or Chili Peppers covers for that matter, and they get uploaded, and then mine, I play 5 seconds of Under the Bridge and my video gets blocked. Why, YouTube? What's the deal? I don't understand these weird laws. I don't know. It's weird, and it frankly really annoys me. I can use stronger words, but I'm not going to. Okay, so yeah, I would like to do more in-depth Nirvana and Kurt videos, and hopefully at some point I'll get around to doing that, so fingers crossed. So like I said, the only thing I can't do is play songs, so I do have to think about things a little bit kind of like differently. And it's the same thing with John Frusciante, Peter Green and Rory Gallagher videos. It's like, now I can't play their songs or teach their songs. It's kind of like, well, cheers. You know, thanks for limiting what I can do. Anyway, but yeah, I would like to do that because Kurt is one of my heroes and I love his guitar playing. I love his singing, I love his songwriting. His melody use is just unreal. It's just unreal. So yeah, hopefully at some point I'll be doing more Kurt videos. And you also asked what happened to my Marshall VS65. The VS65 I sold because I needed money. I sold it before Christmas because I needed money for Christmas, basically. I got rid of a few guitars before Christmas. I sold my Harley Benton, the Squier Bullet, the Marshall Valve State. I sold some pedals as well, but I don't remember them. But that's okay. I kind of had a bit of a clear out pedal-wise. I had far too many pedals. Anyway, I got rid of it before Christmas because I needed some money for Christmas, basically, to fund Christmas. And in all fairness, it was one of those. it's funny because the Harley Benton's a guitar I miss massively. I miss the Squire Bullet as well, and I miss the Marshall VS. But you know, these things come and go. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't have other guitars or other amps. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? You do have a kind of a bit of a connection to these things sometimes. The Marshall VS was super awesome. It was a wicked amp. But yeah, I had to sell it sadly. We had to part ways sadly, which was a bit upsetting. But like I say, when Christmas is on the horizon and you can't afford it, you know, you have to make sacrifices. And unfortunately, the VS was one of the sacrifices. But hopefully in the future, I might get another one. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyway, but yeah, that's what happened to the VS. Like I said, I had to sell it to fund Christmas. So I hope that's a question. Going to move on to question 5 before I get all choked up about the things I've lost. So we've all got the same story where we have to sell things, and it literally is horrible sometimes to sell. Sometimes you just don't want to sell things. It's just like, I don't want to sell that, but you know you have to, and it's just not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling at all. And then there's those people who's like, oh, well, it's only an amp. You know, you have others, yeah, but it's not the same. It's, you know, it's like people would say, like, you know, I remember when I was having to sell my VS, I was talking to people about it, and people were like, well, you got your MGs and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but they don't do what the VS does, and that's the thing. It's like it's got a distinctive little voice, the VS did, and it was very kind of like, you know, it was a really awesome recording amp, really awesome for recording because it had a really cutting tone, but you know. It is one of those things where you know you've got to let something go, and sadly the connection you have with other stuff is stronger than the connection you have with that thing at the time, so you kind of have to make kind of like a sacrifice and a kind of an executive decision, so to say, to sell things. But I don't know a single musician who hasn't had this happen in their life, you know what I mean? There is always, you know, I've spoken to so many people who have the same stories, like, oh yeah, I had to sell something I didn't want to sell, you know, I had to get rid of this, and I really didn't want to get rid of it. You know, it's horrific, it really is. I still feel the thing that I've sold that hurts the most is still the gold top Les Paul I used to own. I used to own an R7, Gibson R7, dark back gold top, and that took so long to get the money together for that. Luckily, Old Hat, where I got it from Old Hat, luckily I was able to kind of take it and use it, and I gigged it for quite a while, and I have pictures of me gigging it somewhere, but I've lost them, and that breaks my heart as well, because I've got no more pictures of it, which really upsets me. I do have pictures of me playing live with it somewhere, I just don't know where they are, but to this day that guitar, I lament that guitar massively. I don't even know where it is now, God knows. I don't remember the serial number or anything like that, but I missed that. That was kind of like the guitar that, well, one of the guitars that hurt the most, because it was like a dream Les Paul for me, a gold top dark back. You know what I mean? It was one of those. But you know, when you need money, you know, you have to make these sacrifices, as we all know, sadly. So that's on to VS. So anyway, I'm going to have to move on to question 5. Otherwise, I'll be here all day. Okay, so lamenting gear that I've lost. Okay, so question 5. What's a good practice amp for low level when people are in bed but still sounds good and I can use pedals with it? I think I would recommend the Boss Katana Mini. The Boss Katana Mini can go super, 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 super quiet and takes pedals like a beast, which was really cool. I love running pedals into that thing. I've done a couple of videos actually. I did an intro jam. Last year at some point. We had a power cut, and I was about ready to film a video, and we had a power cut around here, so I couldn't do an intro jam, so I was like, oh, battery power to the rescue. And I did an intro jam using the Boss Katana Mini with pedals, and it sounded immense. So yeah, I would personally recommend the Boss Katana Mini. You do have a headphone socket on the back as well, but it does go super, super quiet, and because it's only a tiny speaker, you know, if it's on the floor or anything, you don't create kind of like massive waves in vibration or low end or anything like that, you know what I mean? It just stays quite, you know, neat and tidy, so to say. So, that's not really the right word, but I don't know if you know what I mean. But yeah, I would recommend the Katana Mini, just because it's supremely awesome, and I love it. I've actually been set a task by a friend of mine, which I'll tell you what, actually, a friend of mine has tasked me with trying to get the Blues Breaker, the Eric Clapton Blues Breaker tone, out of a Boss Guitar and a Mini. And I haven't really, I've kind of dipped my toe in a bit, but on, things being kind of how they are at this point in time, I haven't really kind of been able to dedicate too much time to it. But people of a tube, would you be interested in seeing a video on that? Me trying and get that kind of like Eric Clapton Blues Breaker-y, Marshall Blues Breaker tone out of the Mini. Would you be interested in seeing a video on that? Because I was kind of umming and ahhing about, should I film the process of how I'm kind of going about it, or should I not, or whatever. So people of tube, let me know in the comment section below. Would you like to see a video on trying to get the Blues Breaker tone out of a Boss Guitar and a Mini? Because I don't feel I've featured a Mini enough, and it's one of those amps that's always on my desk. It's always at arm's reach, my little Mini is. And every time I plug into it, I just love the thing. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, if you'd like to see a video on that, let me know. But that is the amp I'd recommend for kind of thingy. It's a really, really cool little amp, and I think it's just ridiculously cool. So it's the best small amp I've plugged into. The other one that I would recommend if you can't get the Mini would be the Black Star Fly, which again is an awesome little amp, and I love that as well. Sadly mine broke, which is gutting, and I'm annoyed that mine broke because I really like it, and I probably won't buy another one. I highly doubt I'll buy another Fly, but they are great. They really are great. I had two, and they're really cool. So yeah, I would personally go for the Boss Guitar and a Mini first, and if you can't get hold of that, go for the Black Star Fly. They both go really quiet. They've both got headphone sockets if need be, but you can get them to go really quiet, and they both take pedals really well. They both sound and respond really well. So that'd be the two amps I would recommend. So yes, and people of the tube, if you know of any others, let us know in the comment section below. Okie dokie. Final question already. Question 6. Why does it feel like this has gone really quick? I don't know. It feels like today has been really quick. Quick Q&A. I don't know. Weird. Feels strange. Okay, so question 6. This will turn into a ramble though. This should fill out the time. How do you feel about John Frusciante rejoining the Chili Peppers? Okay, so I am over the moon that John rejoined the Chili Peppers, and I've already spoke about this a few times, but I want to address it again because of certain things that have come to light recently. I am over the moon that John's back, but because there's been no real press, I know Flea's away on his honeymoon, and I know Chad's doing his artwork and stuff like that, his art shows here and there and everywhere, but because there's been no press coverage, no pictures, no real word, no nothing, I'm a little bit terrified of certain things, which I'll get to in a minute. And when Chad Smith did an interview recently where he was like, basically he's not allowed to say anything about the band. He's just not allowed to say anything. Other than John's back and they're working on a new album and they have these dates booked, these festivals booked, sorry. He's not allowed to say a thing. That makes me feel that they're kind of dipping their toe, if you will, in the water to see how it will go. Which makes me almost feel that, like, they're not committing 100% to it because they want to see how these gigs are going to play out, and how recording's going to play out. Because Chad said the only gigs they're going to do this year are those festival dates. That's it for this year. For 2020, those dates are the only ones they're doing. They're not doing any others, and they're going to work on new music with John. Which I totally get, but it's still weird. Flea at the end of last year, well, towards the end of last year, was saying there was going to be a new album this year. Obviously that's not going to happen now. It's just weird. It still weirds me out. Don't get me wrong, I am over the moon that John's back. But John has his own shoes to fill. And that is not an easy task. Especially coming off the back, me and my brother were talking about this yesterday, and the other day. And we were saying this. When John came back to the Chili Peppers the first time in '98, they were coming off the back of kind of like being on hiatus. You know what I mean? After One Hot Minute, they took a break for, I think it was for about a year. Because after One Hot Minute tour, Dave Navarro left and Flea joined Jane's Addiction and was touring with Jane's Addiction. And the Chili Peppers weren't doing anything. And the thing is, if you stop doing something, it doesn't matter how famous you are or whatever, you will slip from the public eye. And I think that's kind of what happened to the Chili Peppers. After One Hot Minute, because One Hot Minute did okay, it was in the shadow of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. You know what I mean? It was never gonna. It couldn't stack up. It was it just couldn't get there. You know what I mean? Blood Sugar Sex Magic is just kind of one of those defining albums of a band. So it's really it's like it's like Axis Boulder's Love to Electric Ladyland. You know what I mean? It's like they are polar opposites. Axis Boulder's Love is kind of like a little 2-minute kind of songs, whereas Electric Ladyland is Jimmy stretching. And that's exactly what Blood Sugar Sex Magic is to One Hot Minute. It's them stretching out and doing all this amazing music. And then they went to One Hot Minute with a different guitarist, different vibe altogether. And it was very, very difficult for that album to compete. You know what I mean? It's not a bad album. One Hot Minute is not a bad album. I mean, I don't particularly like it. You know what I mean? It's not knocking on the back door of Stadium Arcadium, by the way, Californication, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Freaky Style, or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's not knocking on the back door of them. But it's not a rubbish album. They swore. It's not. But my fear has always been that John, we don't know John. I don't know John. None of us really know him. But history has kind of dictated that John struggles with certain pressures. Blood Sugar Sex Magic era, he struggled with how big the band got really quickly. You know what I mean? He didn't understand, and he couldn't deal with that level of success. He didn't want it to get that big. He wanted, that music was really, was really life-changing for him, and he couldn't get over the fact it was going to be heard worldwide, and songs like Under the Bridge were hits and stuff like that, and he didn't like it, and it affected him to the point where he lost it and quit the band and went on that 7-year heroin kind of binge. You know what I mean? And that it twisted him. You know what I mean? Because he didn't understand it, and because John is a very complex individual. He's a very complex individual. That's what makes him a genius, though. That is the point of John Frusciante. He is a genius. But geniuses, by their very nature, are unstable people. You know what I mean? You look at any countless genius throughout history. They are all slightly self-destructive and, just unpredictable and unstable. And John is no exception to this rule. With one thing or another. So my fears, and coming back to what me and my brother were talking about, are John has his own shoes to fill. Coming back to what me and my brother were talking about, is when the Chili Peppers came back in '98 and John rejoined, there wasn't as much a hoo-ha as that it kind of is now about John coming back. You know what I mean? There wasn't social media, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't all this stuff in '98. There was just magazines and TV and and music channels, which again they didn't really appear on so much. So it was more of a gradual return. So when the Californication came back out, it was it was kind of like almost like they'd never been away, and John had never been away because there was no social media coverage. You didn't know what John was up to while he was away. We didn't know where he'd been, what he'd done. He didn't realise that he was like so close to death on this heroin thing. He nearly lost his arms. He set himself on fire, freebasing and all this kind of thing, and set his house on fire and lost all his guitars. We didn't know any of this because there wasn't the social media coverage there is today. So they just kind of slipped back in. You know what I mean? And it just kind of went up from there. And then obviously, Californication, and By the Way, and then Stadium Arcadium. And then John leaves in 2008. And that's kind of like on the cusp of this social media revolution kind of thing, so to say. Where things just kind of ramped up from there. And so for the next 10 years, obviously the Chili Peppers kept kind of going. And then obviously John announces he's coming back, and it is going to be massive. And there is going to be a lot of pressure on him because everything that John said in the last 10 years about the Chili Peppers, guitar music, what he wants to release, the fact he doesn't make music to please people, all the mistakes he's made, saying things that he shouldn't have said, all that's going to haunt him. Because you can't get away with that stuff anymore. It's like politicians saying one thing one day, and then the next day saying, "Oh, I didn't say that," but somebody screenshotted them or caught the video of them saying it. It's like you can't get away from it. Social media has made it so lying is impossible. You can't lie; people will find you out. It's as simple as that. So, what freaks me out about John, because he is quite an unstable human, because he's a genius, is I'm afraid that the pressure might get too much. Because you think for the next, if they're not going to do, they're only going to do these gigs this year. When they release a new album with John will have to do press, and John doesn't like doing press at the best of times. There's not many interviews with John doing press. You know what I mean? There's quite a few, but not as many as kind of Anthony or Flea or whatever. And John has said, in fact, he doesn't like doing that kind of thing. And, who can blame him? It's not exactly going to be fun, is it? Anyway, but you think John's going to have to do that. And every question that John has to answer will probably be, so what made you return for the third time? And you can think after about the 10th, 12th, 20th, 30th, 50th interview of, so what made you return? You're going to start to get annoyed. And this scares me because this could make John pull away and withdraw and go, you know what, this is the reason why I didn't want to do this in the first place. This is the reason why I left, in the first place. And it could make him go, yeah, actually, I don't want to do this. And then he'll leave again. So I am terrified. I'm extremely excited and over the moon and elated, but I am terrified all at the same time because it's different. The times have changed. Things are different. John rejoining now is different to how he rejoined the Californication era. Like I say, with the advent of social media and stuff like that, where they could just slip back in 1998, they can't do that now so easy. And also, John's got to play the same, if not better, than he did during the Stadium Arcadium tour. Because John was a demon on that tour. More so than, I would say, any other tour that John did. John's playing during the Stadium Arcadium tour was next level. It really was. He was trying different things. But John Frusciante has to fill John Frusciante's shoes. And that is a challenge for anyone. It's like Jimi Hendrix coming back to life and having to write an album as good or if not better than Electric Ladyland. It's a hellish thing to try and step back into, even for the person who did it. So all these doubts and all these kind of fears that I have, I mean, they're probably misplaced, but they're there nonetheless for me. Do worry me about this whole reunion with John again. Because, like I say, it was a different time in 1998. There wasn't as much pressure as there is these days. We all know John's back. Everyone's going crazy. Most of the gigs have sold out because of John Frusciante being back. So it just makes you wonder. I'm very, very edgy about the whole thing. And like I say, I mean, John's got some big shoes to fill. I mean, Josh had to step into those shoes. Josh had to step into John's shoes. And now John has to step back into his own shoes. And that is not an easy thing to do. I mean, that's really difficult. To step back into your old shoes is not necessarily. Sometimes they don't fit. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's a worry of mine. there's so many guitarists that have come and gone through the Chili Peppers who have tried and not succeeded to the level of John Frusciante. You know, Dave Navarro, Alec Marshall, Josh. You know, they've all tried, but they've never took the Chili Peppers to the peak that John has, you know, been when John's been with them. You know, so I'm a little edgy because of the way things are going. And the fact we haven't heard anything or no press shots or anything like that. I know Flea's away on his honeymoon, that's cool. I know Chad's doing his thing, that's cool. But you would think there'd be more than just that Instagram post. You know, you'd think there'd be more. You know, and those festival dates, only gigs they're doing this year. Interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know which way to take it at this point in time. So I am edgy. I'm very wary about it. But then again, they're my worries and my kind of like, you know, insecurities about this. I'm just worried that he'll bottle it, and that scares me because I don't want him to. I want him to be able to just come back and all it takes is for that first gig to be bad. You know what I mean? For John to get on stage with a totally different outlook on the guitar and people not to like it. That's all it takes. You know. So I don't know. I mean, if that first gig they do is rubbish and they sound terrible and they're sluggish and there's no energy, which I doubt will happen, but it's very possible. It just freaks me out, you know, because you don't know. You don't know where it could go. Anyway. So there we go. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore because I'll be on that subject all day if I'm not careful. So that definitely dragged out the time. Okay, so thank you very much everybody for your Q&A questions. If you want to submit a question for Q&A, description box below there's an email link. Just go to that. You know, just send your questions to that email link. I will get to them. There is a backlog, yes. So just bear with me. I'm at this point in time at the beginning of December. I think the last question 6, was from the 15th of December. So there is a backlog, so just bear with me while I catch up because I don't really want to miss any. If it's a question I've already answered, I won't answer it again. But if it's a question I haven't answered, I will answer it. But you know, it just takes me time to get through it. Only doing 6 a week, I'd say. So yeah. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. Like I say, email link is in the description box below, as well as kind of email links to my social media stuff and whatnot, and also the questions are in the description box with timestamps as well. So yeah, is there anything else I need to talk about? No. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you again on Friday. Don't know what the video is going to be yet, but we will find out then. And yeah, I'll see you again on Friday. Have a great morning, afternoon, and good evening until then. And yes, goodbye. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. But wait! There's a little bit more to this Q&A than meets the eye. Yes. A little bit of an unboxing time, everybody. I was hoping this would arrive while I was filming this, and it did. So this is from these wonderful people. So, shall we see? I think we shall. Okay. So, what have the awesome people at Mad Professor sent? I know, but you don't at this point in time. Because I'm evil. Okay, I have been wanting to try this pedal since, well, my friend Ian actually told me about this. To start with, he said, have you seen this new pedal by Mad Professor? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he showed me it. And since then, I was like, alright, I need to try that. So, cool little message. Thank you, Mad Professor. So, yeah, the pedal is... And this is just going to be like a preliminary unboxing, first impressions bit on the end of his Q&A. The Super Black. This is Mad Professor's kind of like Fender Blackface kind of pedal clone, if you will. And I am very excited to plug this in. So yeah, here we go. I love Mad Professor's boxes. They're so nice. Okay. And their pedals just look stunning. They really do. Okay. Good gravy. How cool does that look? I mean, let's just get it out of the glare. It's such a cool looking pedal. And then we've got good old Mad Professor sticker. I can't talk.
I don't know what that is. But anyway, so yeah, and then we got the instructions. So, thank you for buying me the super black pedal. Blackface amp, 63 to 68, considered as the most recorded amps in history. I've heard that as well. Fender Blackface tone in a box, everybody. So, shall we go and plug this in and just have a little first impressions? And also, I've heard I'm going to save it to the actual review because I want to live with it for a while and just kind of like get on with it, see how I get on with it. I've heard you can plug this through an effects return to kind of like, you know, to run it. So when we get down to doing the actual demo of it, we will explore every aspect of the Super Black by Mad Professor. Massive thanks to Mad Professor for sending this for me to review. I'm looking forward to this immensely. So let's go and plug this in. Let's see what happens. Okay, so Super Black plugged in to the Marshall. Got my white Strat. So I'm gonna run it into. Let's just try a clean channel on the Marshall. Turn the reverb down. I'm not going to use the close mic, I'm just going to use a room mic for this. So I'll be a bit careful on the level front. That plectrum's broken, that's no good to me! Okay. That's a bit dull, let's brighten up a bit. You can tell how much I used the clean channel. Dead scratchy and crackly. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so let's engage Super. I'm really quite excited by this. Okay, so we're in. Everything's at 12 o'clock. Okay, so we're a bit too trebly there for my liking. Let's put the mids and the bass up. Let's put the gain up because that's kind of where I like to do things. Okay, a bit too much bass. Let's put the bass back down to half. Oh, we've got presence as well. Let's turn the presence up. I like presence. Okay. Let's crank the mids. Okay, bring the mids down. Okay, I'm just playing around, everybody, so bear with me. Okay, so we're about unison. So this is just the Marshall on its own, quite flat, and then you add the Super Black. Ah! Put a bit more reverb on. I already like it. Okay, I'm going to turn the presence down though. Not that much. Okay, so that's the bass cut. Compression. Oh, that's wicked! I'm just going to turn the treble off because I like that better. This is wicked. I like it. Okay, and then we've got this, we've got an overdrive. I can never remember what the overdrive's called that's on the right side as well. Oh. Get back in tune. Just to add to it as well. Oh, don't play that.
Oh, what? What? Oh, that's just disgustingly filthy. Turn the volume up all the way and the gain up all the way. Let's turn the amp down. What? Oh, scratchy volume. Why? Okay, that's really cool. I think I prefer the volume at half though. It's kind of a unity. Oh, this sounds lovely. It does sound like a blackface Fender. That's weird, man. Oh, this is disgusting. Let's turn the gain down a bit and clean it up. Okay, let's turn the gain down, the volume up. Let's see what happens. Oh, let's turn the overdrive off as well. Okay, gain all the way down, volume all the way up. Oh, and turn the compression off. Turn the presence down. Oh, good gravy. That's my kind of clean tone. It's just got a little bit of bite, you know, not too much, but just a little. I'm going to put the gain to about quarter. Okay. So that's mids all the way in. Okay. This is just awesome. I think I prefer it with the volume cranked and the gain lower. Let's just put that back to where it was. Yeah, definitely. The volume cranked and the gain, that's exactly how the loud and proud pedal worked.
track in as well for this. Like a collapsing amp. Okay, that's just disgusting. Yeah, I'm slightly in love with people with a tube. I think this is rather good. Like an old Fender amp, it sounds like an old Fender amp, and I'm playing through a Marshall. Let me turn the volume back up. Okay, so, and that's just through the clean channel of the Marshall, and that's just through the clean channel of the MG. I say from that to that. Okay, I'm looking forward to playing around with this thing and finding out what it can do. Anyway, sorry about any peaking, everyone. I'm going a bit carried away. But anyway, so there we go. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A, everybody. A little bit of added bonus at the end here. I was kind of hoping I was going to be able to get this in. I hope it was going to get delivered before I had to edit this video together. So yeah, watch this space for the Super Black. This will probably be next week, because I want to play with this over the weekend and this week. Just mess around with it and see how it responds to different channels, different amps. When I demo it, I think I'll demo it through a couple of different amps. I'll demo it through the MG and the Katana as well. And I might also try it through my old little Audition, or maybe my PV Rage, just to see what happens. That's wicked. That's wicked. I'm a bit in love. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this Q&A, everybody. I hope this question's okay. I hope you enjoyed this little unboxing, first impressions vid. Thank you to Mad Presser for sending this pedal for me to review. I absolutely love it. It's so cool. So yeah, and thank you all so much for watching. You all mean the world to me. Thank you very much. And I will see you again on Friday for another vid. Have a great one until then. Goodbye now. Thank you. Ha! Yeah!